What's up, Canopy crew? This is Eli the Tree Guy with Canopy Cast, and today I'm going to be doing a nature walk looking at 7 different characters that we're going to find throughout this local forest. Now guys, let's be real, it can be difficult to relate to plants, but if we assign each of them a title of a character and how they relate with their role and function in nature, we can better relate to these organisms and think about how they serve or hurt a local ecosystem. So today let's jump in with the 7 different characters, starting with number 1. Starting off with number 1, the Punisher. Guys, that's right, we have multiflora rose behind me, and this is an invasive species all throughout the eastern United States. Its Latin name is Rosa multiflora, and it actually originates from Asia. And the main problem with this, guys, is that it absolutely punishes all the plant life around it. And one of the things that really makes it a real problem is all the thorns throughout its structure. I mean, guys, this is basically impenetrable to any animals or small wildlife that's trying to get through. Now, of course, guys, there's other rose species here in this local area, but what's gonna help you identify this one as compared to other roses are the fringed stipules at the base of the leaf. These can grow about 10 to 15 foot tall. Most of the time you're gonna see them just like this in a 3 to 4 foot height, with some growing on vines behind me. And you can just see all behind me and all along this local trail, this plant is taking over. So this is totally punishing this environment. All right guys, for number 2, we have the Wanderer. That's right, Ulmus americana, the American elm. And right behind me here, you can just see how this other American elm, swooping all the way to the top up there in the canopy, is just stretching super far out. Guys, these trees are kind of like octopuses in that they stretch out those long lateral limbs with their almost rubbery tensile strength wood that actually makes them very difficult for splitting firewood. In any case, their growth pattern is unique and kind of serpentine a lot of times, which in this case is really exaggerated with this one elm here. All right guys, so here we have another elm behind me, and just look at this large swoop. It's just totally reaching over into the sunlight. And again, other trees structurally that might not be an option. They just make this incredible, strong, swooping canopy outward. So I absolutely love this tree. You can identify it with its, upward striation bark fissures, and then also its really cool leaf.
The American elm leaf has an oblique base, meaning its attachment point is not symmetrical, as shown here where it attaches to the petiole.
Love the elm, love its wandering spirit. Let's see what else is out there. Number 3, Mr. Popular. Guys, that's right. Here we have the red maple, Acer rubrum, and we actually have it represented pretty much all over this riparian area. We've got 1 tree there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then likely even more in this area. And this is no surprise because red maple is the most common tree in the entire United States. So with that, it's very successful in many different habitat types. Oftentimes in the mid-Atlantic here, you're gonna see it more represented in riparian type areas. It's not necessarily gonna be the tallest tree, especially in a mature forest. It's probably gonna be outcompeted by things like beeches, hickories, oaks, larger shade trees. All right, so ways to identify this tree. It's gonna be a smoother bark at a lower diameter. So this is about 3 to 4 inches. And as it matures, that bark is gonna get more furrowed. And oftentimes the red maple is easier to distinguish than some of the other maples because the sinuses between the lobes of the leaves are relatively small, and it almost looks like a duckfoot. Of course, that can be confused with the striped maple if you're up in a mountain region. In any case, guys, if you're not in a mountainous area, almost certainly if you see a duckfoot leaf like this, it's gonna be a red maple. One of the reasons red maple is also very popular is the red fall foliage that you'll see on the trees. And this is one of the biggest reasons people love it, right? It doesn't really have super great flowers. It doesn't really have, amazing bark by any measure, but those red leaves in the fall, people absolutely love it, and it's a very popular tree. Number 4, the deal breaker, AKA Hotunia cordata, the chameleon plant. Now this plant is really cool. It's actually from Asia, and in this patch it's actually really invasive because of those rhizomes and the spreading roots that can come and kind of colonize an area. But you can eat it and use it for different medicinal purposes, for good flavoring, things like that. It kind of tastes like anywhere from a citrus type taste to more of a fishy type taste, depending on how it's used and how it's cooked. But if you ever find one, whew, it is definitely distinct in its smell, and it's just a fun little thing to come by and smell. In any case, guys, obviously it was brought here for food, but it's a deal breaker because it kind of, broke its deal. Like, we were supposed to be using it for good, and now it's really actually crowding out this environment and taking away from all those natives that could be growing in this area. Another reason you could call it a deal breaker is because where it might be marketed as citrus, again, it could also taste like fish, and for some people that could be a misleading, way to appetize you and then be very disappointed. So a neat little plant in this area, but unfortunately it is kind of taking over this whole patch. You can identify this plant by its heart-shaped leaf and then the small red stems as well. And then you have the small flower with the small yellow to green tiny spikes, and then also the white bracts that grow all around it, which is a type of augmented leaf that is meant to draw in pollinators, even though it's technically not a true pollen producing part of the plant. All right, number 5, we have the Titan. Guys, that's right behind me. We have this massive red oak here. And much like the mythology of Titans themselves who were overthrown by, Zeus and the other gods, this tree, although huge, large, and heavy, and it can live to be up to 200 years, it's one of the heaviest woods we have in these eastern forests. It can actually, in this region, in particular in Northern Virginia, come up from the roots, especially if there's a slight lean, as you can kind of see here behind me. So that weight is great for structural integrity up top and up high, but it's not always advantageous when it comes to down low because the root plate can be sabotaged. Guys, this area is the part of the tree that's going to be producing what we call reaction wood. So much like a building is built with rebar and concrete, in a tree itself is very similar with the lignin and the cellulose that work together to hold this tree in place. And at a microscopic level, this tree is reinforcing itself with what's called reaction wood as it experiences predictable forces higher up in the canopy. And that reaction wood, oftentimes on deciduous trees, is going to be shown the side opposite the lean, the side is stretching, what we call tension wood. So guys, I think this tree potentially has a solid future. Unfortunately, there is this path that kind of cuts through that tension wood on this side. But in any case, guys, you got to respect the Titan, but just know there could be a large downfall. Guys, number 6, the Renaissance plant, Chimaphila maculata, aka the striped wintergreen. And this is a cool native evergreen in the eastern United States. It's used for all sorts of medicinal purposes and culinary purposes as well. You do have to be a little bit careful. It can be sort of blood thinner, so always when foraging, guys, use common sense. I'm just some dude on the internet, do your own research. I love these downward facing drooping flowers that are going to be attracting understory insects to come and pollinate them. And what's really cool is oftentimes, guys, in these native environments in the eastern United States, you don't see a ton of evergreen ground cover. You might see like club fern moss, maybe some shorter mountain laurel, a few other things, handful of things. But to see this evergreen cover, this is going to really stand out in wintertime. Now, this had many medicinal purposes, one of which was to treat UTIs. But it can also be used for all sorts of different remedies. But probably the best and most fun use is just to take a little leaf, chew it, and give it a little breath freshening, as you're hiking on the trail. We've got a small patch here, so I'm not going to eat it, and it's kind of close to a trail, so you always got to be careful with dog urine, things like that. But I'll leave it be. But it's a really cool treat to see. And guys, just the myriad different uses, this truly is a Renaissance plant. And of course, tree number 7, the underdog, aka American holly, Ilex opaca. Guys, this tree is great for understory birds and all sorts of ecological uses in this local environment. Unfortunately, we as humans can't eat the berries, but they do produce edible red berries that are very important food sources for birds in wintertime. And from a landscaping perspective, although this tree might be otherwise drab, those berries really do pop and can add some winter color in an otherwise, drab landscape. So from a wildlife perspective, trees like this are very important because oftentimes these large overstory trees are going to shade out other evergreen type trees, thinking typical conifers, things like that. But guys, Hollies do great in the shade and they're very deer resistant. So they're gonna be providing that year-long cover, even in the winter when they don't lose their leaves, for deer, birds, things like that. They can be a little invasive in some instances, so you do have to manage them if you have a lot of land and they're starting to take over a whole lot. In any case, guys, these are a real underdog. They're kind of not noticed as much, but they serve a lot of great wildlife value. They help suppress invasives underneath. They provide cover for birds and animals. They provide food for birds in the winter, and they provide all sorts of visual hiding places for insects, animals, and birds. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. It is really a cast of characters out here, and there are so many different, quirky, unique things about each individual species that you can learn. And guys, ultimately, it's all part of a puzzle of an ecosystem, both locally and globally, as we, fight invasives, but also learn about our natives that have been in these environments for thousands of years. So guys, I really appreciate you coming along with me today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next nature walk. Until then, get wild and get outdoors.